We are talking, we are discussing a very interesting topic. I believe this is the first time ever at any conference we are covering this topic, which is gatekeepers of Metaverse, because I think this is who we are. I think our generation is very lucky because we're standing at the beginning of something great and life-changing. We have a chance to improve every element of society: politics, economics, education, medical system, philosophy, spirituality, well-being, all of it thanks to this amazing technology of blockchain. And we have a chance to make society much, much better. But if we look at the history, we would see that many times we had these opportunities, and most of the times people screwed it up because there was greed, there was ambition, there was ego. So lately I've been thinking a lot, how can we make sure these lucky people who stand at the beginning of this great reformation and evolution, how can we make sure that we preserve the best values of Web3 for the future generations? And I want to focus on this topic today. And of course, let's start with introduction. I believe we have the most amazing panels of superstars of Web3 today. And let's go in order in the way that we're showing on the screen. Victoire, would you like to start?
Hi everyone, very happy to be there with all these lovely minds and brains. So I started my journey in blockchain in 2015, 2016, something like this. And at the time I was more into the slow fashion movement. And I really connected the dots on how technology could help the fashion industry to actually get more sustainable. And that's how I ended to work for Consensus in 2019, where we were working on the project that was called Aura. The Aura blockchain was a consortium between big luxury groups such as LVMH, Kering, Prada. And the purpose of this blockchain is to actually track and trace the supply chain through NFTs. So it was before the big boom of NFTs for more art projects. It was really NFTs as utility of a token that you can track as a chip, RFID chip you can use also. It was linked to that. And the purpose, what we built with Consensus and all this luxury group was really a way to bring transparency and traceability into the supply chain through blockchain, but also it was also helping, it's also helping because now it's live, a way to battle the counterfeiting market, that is really important problem in luxury, but also it gives you a token of like proof of real luxury items for the secondary market. So it's really interesting for the vintage market that is actually exploding today. And it gives you, a way to know what is happening on the supply chain, or you can follow it, or you can control it. And it's really interesting in terms of sustainability and guarantee of what you're buying. So that's how I really started to my journey into fashion tech, blockchain fashion. And then, naturally, I was really interested in digital fashion because it was all these things I was interested in. I remember watching the first live action of The Fabricant, and I thought it was like the future. It was amazing. This like imaginary dress that was so cool, and that does not exist in real life, but that gives you like plenty of things to think about for your virtual life. And then I started like to really dig into digital fashion, being really interested into it, read everything I could. And now I'm an investor and also a collector of digital fashion. I'm part of the Red DAO. Red DAO is a DAO that focused on collecting and investing in digital fashion, Web3 fashion projects. Myself, I invested in companies such as The Fabricant. So I was really happy because a few years ago I was just watching this with like kids' eyes, and now I'm part of their story. So I'm really glad to being able to be part of their journey as well. and also investing in other companies such as Carbon XYZ, that is the new metazine for Web3 and Web3 fashion. And yeah, I'm just like here, like everyone, watching and learning and seeing how we can shape this new industry that is more than an industry for me. It's just a new playground for so many talents and so many people who just want to play with other kind of fabric, like digital fabric. That's it for me.
Awesome. David, would you like to be the next?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Awesome. Nice to meet everybody here, and thank you all for watching. My name is David Cash. I run a company called Cash Labs, and I'm also the curator for the Decentraland Foundation. And I also get to work with a bunch of other amazing companies in the space, from Bright Hall to Vogue Singapore and beyond. My blockchain journey started in 2014, if we're looking at it in terms of blockchain, but I've been in entertainment since 2003. I was a child actor. I ran a production company for 7 years, and then the pandemic happened, and all of a sudden there was no work on set. So I ended up going back to school, and in 2020 I started working on a master's thesis all about NFTs and DeFi and how decentralization is going to change the world. And it did, and it continues to. And that resulted in me just releasing my master's thesis as a PDF on the internet for free. A couple 100,000 people read it, and that resulted in a whole bunch of people asking me to write about the blockchain and NFTs. So early 2021, I started working with some lovely folks like Outlier Ventures, Unit London, and companies like those really connected me with a ton of amazing people in the space. Got to work with dozens of amazing companies, got to work with Gia multiple times. We got to produce some amazing drops together with dear friends like Krista Kim. We produced one of the first NFTs ever for the NBA with the Utah Jazz, did that alongside Gia, so lovely to be on a call with her here. We did a ton of NFT drops over the course of 2021. Now in 2022, I'd say the focus of both my agency and myself is really around the Metaverse. Fall of last year, I was working with Decentraland on creating what is now known as Metaverse Fashion Week. I was honored to get to curate that event, and it was seen by over 1.2 billion unique people through the media. And we're really just now working through my agency and beyond, really just trying to work to move the Metaverse forwards, move Web3 forwards, and make it accessible to more people. My personal goal in the space is to try to help onboard 1 billion people. I hope I'm not the only one with that goal. I know I'm not. So I really feel the space is helping move itself forwards, and it's really amazing to see companies like Red DAO, organizations I should say, like Red DAO, and community efforts such as these really pushing to allow the space forwards. Work very closely with a whole bunch of amazing virtual fashion companies. Fabricant is a dear friend and colleague of mine as well, and so excited to share the stage with such incredible leaders. And just one thing I want to mention about myself in terms of what I call myself before I pass it on to the next incredible guest. When we're thinking about the idea of gatekeeping in the metaverse, one thing I actually call myself in this space, if you look at my title on any social media, I say that I'm a writer, I'm an evangelist, a Web3 evangelist, and I say I'm a gate opener. Because for me, in the Web3 space, it's really about how can we change the framework and the infrastructure of the previous entertainment industry that we're coming from, and how can we facilitate the right people, how can we curate the right people in the right places to really help move the space forward. So excited about this conversation and to be sharing the stage with so many leaders.
Gia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Layla. This is an incredible panel. I'm so happy to see the faces around the room and good friends like David as well here. I'm Gianna. I'm the Director of Marketing and Partnerships at Spatial.io. We are the most accessible and visually appealing metaverse and available in VR, mobile, and web browser. That's my little show. But before I came to Spatial, which is really one of the most gratifying and impactful jobs of my life, I spent 20 years in the brand and marketing and experiential industry. So really my job started as a producer for many years, supporting creatives who are working under brands or major agencies, really see their vision come to life. And in that, I lived an amazing life. I've worked with Nike, the National Football League. I was recently the national director at Omnicom, helping really amazing brands like Pepsi and Audi and Samsung really see through their campaigns. And in that, it was amazing. I won a lot of awards, but I did not really feel like I was helping creatives the way I wanted to, and really using my talent of production to bring the right vision to life, right? And communicate to people in a humane and empathetic way. You know, I've never been comfortable in my career seeing people be passive consumers. I really believe Web3 is the first time I'm seeing people be active co-creators in this space. And I think that's something that we should all champion, right? And that we should all be proud to be Web3 leaders, to start helping this space be more humane and empathetic and think through what the standards are, you know, because what we're building in Web3 is a digital society. And my dream is that if we can build that as great as we can, that can reflect into the physical society. So I'm very proud to be here with all of you. Layla, a champion for all artists and self-expression in the metaverse. So looking forward to this dialogue, and thank you for having me.
Dear, we're super lucky to have you as well as every one of you. So the next is Odeta.
Yes, last but not least.
No, never.
So, yeah, just to know. So, I'm Odeta Jace, and I am a tech project manager at IBM by day. However, my full focus is on next generation digital experiences, and I strategize and help brands, to focus more on future, on innovations and fashion tech itself, along with Web3, helping brands to elevate their consumer-related experiences, to make them more inclusive, more available for others, more engaging, more immersing, and just more experiential. So right now I'm really working with so many cool creators and innovation enablers in multiple industries, and I'm so happy to be in this panel too, to talk about what kind of other innovations and what kind of, the gate openers, as David just said, it's amazing word actually, we will see in the future and what it will bring to our future generations. So let's kick off.
Well, this is amazing, my dear gatekeepers / gate openers. Let's jump into discussion because we have so much to cover. I wish we could have a 10-hour session, honestly. It's so exciting. So first thing that I would like to cover is the word metaverse, because as I travel, and most of us travel right now because this is summer, and when I tell people that I work in Web3 and mention this word, no one knows what it is. Crazy enough, for the first time, this word was mentioned in 1992, 30 years ago in Neil Stephenson's book Snow Crash, but for a while this word was not mentioned at all, and then in 2021 it became the word that everyone started using, but no one exactly knew what it meant. So what is metaverse for you? How do you define it?
So you actually said very good thing that even though the metaverse term itself has been, conducted exactly 30 years ago, but metaverse isn't, not some futuristic subculture anymore. Because metaverse for me, is as a layer of medium, as per this day, is exactly like gaming on steroids. However, metaverse as a technology is a part of the next evolution of the internet. We all know as a Web3. But it is, a harmonious sum of technological solutions such as AI, VR, XR, AR, holograms, blockchain, and so much more elements, because it helps not only, to reshape businesses, but also expand experiences, take new opportunities, leverage emerging capabilities in technology in all the communities, experiment, solve more causes, and create your own and our own ways, not only of working, but also of living and enjoying our surroundings. So this is what I can see as a metaverse right now.
Yes, and I quite agree with your definition, because metaverse is not necessarily something really futuristic, because metaverse it can only mean like a platform, like a website, or somewhere where you can log in and have an avatar and discover, like can be in video games, it can be just like a virtual place to explore. That's the, I think, most strict definition you can give to metaverse is like virtual place. But what is interesting, because metaverse is not necessarily linked to blockchain technology or Web3 or VR or anything. It's what we do with this metaverse, is what we are building on this metaverse. So that's why I really liked your definition, Odeta, because it's what we can bring. It's like if you had, like, you're walking and you see like a ground, and it's just a ground, there is nothing. It can be like a metaverse in real life. But if you are like planting flowers, and if you are like putting balloons and building a fancy house and everything, it becomes like your home or place you like to hang out, or park or anything. So it's just the place, the playground you have to build something in the virtual world. That's how I will define metaverse.
Yeah, I really appreciate the definition. It's funny when we think about metaverse, and I'm a huge fan of Snow Crash, but when we think about metaverse, we look at it for what it is right now and what we're trying to achieve. And what's funny is, humans have always been trying to, connect with each other. And we see that throughout history, whether it's industrialization, we're building railroads to each other, or, we're building planes and flying across, different continents. Technology was that gate opener. If we look back 16 years, we started to see social networking start to pick up, because humans are always trying to connect. And the metaverse is that digital solution that we're all aiming for, where humans are trying to connect a little bit more intimately using technology. And it's all types of experiences that we're trying to have with each other, right? We're just trying to do it remotely from different places. What I found on Spatial, which is our own, metaverse platform, and we believe in being open, we believe in being interoperable with other platforms, is that moment of every single day I see a digital society. People are functioning, they have businesses, there's small businesses in the community, there's performers, there's artists, and everyone's functioning under this same code of conduct in a lot of ways, right? They've unlocked their physical bodies, and they're now working within this digital space to build together, support each other. So in a lot of ways, that's the responsibility you have in the metaverse, where you now have a functioning human society that's using the digital layer to connect with each other. And that's where this space gets very exciting, because we think of all the technological advances that need to happen so that all these different platforms, we're in that buzz phase where everyone's building their versions of cool and what should be in the metaverse. And, my hope and dream is that we can establish these great values working in technology, so one day all of these platforms can be linked together, and you can go to a show in Decentraland, come home in Spatial, visit an exhibit in Mona, and there could be this wonderful convergence of human beings being able to finally share these experiences a little more deeply, even when regionally they can't be together.
Gia, you always tee up my thoughts so perfectly, because that's exactly the direction I wanted to go in. Love everything that's been said so far. Anytime I talk about the metaverse as of late, I really like to just go back to the very, very original definition, like what do these words mean? So if you look at meta and like the Greek root of the word meta, it technically just means after or beyond. And if you look at the word verse, technically that means to turn, or in technicality, like around the bend. So really what we're doing is this is what's happening after the bend. And if we think of the bend in the grand sense of things, and we think of things on a more practical level, the metaverse is really just a metaverse. It's a virtual space. It's a hypothetical conceptual space that we're building. So when we think about what current metaverse solutions exist, like Spatial, which are absolutely beautiful, Gia and I talk about these as verses, or what we would call like specific metaverses. I would consider Spatial a metaverse. But when we want to consider the ecosystem that's being built here in the Web3 space and in the gaming space, because I do feel like there is like a Web2 camp and a Web3 camp, and there is a lot of amazing innovation happening in both realms, but I do really see an omniverse, or what I would consider an omniverse being built. Some of these like multi-dimensional realms. And again, if you look at definitions, technically an omniverse is a realm that incorporates a fourth dimension. But anytime I'm talking about virtual space, why can't virtual spaces that we've created, another realm that we've created, be a fourth dimension for us and for society? So anytime I'm talking about the metaverse, I really like to think about the omniverse. And just as Gia put it so lovely, I'm really impassioned about connecting verses and connecting virtual spaces to create a larger and a more cohesive ecosystem that we can all participate in. I love Other Side. I love what Artifact is doing. I love what Spatial is doing. I love what Decentraland is doing. And I really want to see a world where all of these verses can come together into one cohesive space. So that's my perspective.
Guys, we're working on it. Into bringing different worlds together, building bridges between them. And let me tell you, all of you just blew my mind. Omniverse and the fourth dimension, something that people have been talking for centuries, from Nostradamus to Einstein. And finally, we are making it happen. And this is very exciting. I literally have goosebumps because it goes so far beyond business or technology. I think it has to do with our consciousness and elevation and personal growth, a lot more than with business. But let's see what happens next, because some of the trends, even in Metaverse, are a bit alarming. For example, recent research says that over 60% of Gen Zers and millennials say that their digital identity is more important to them than their physical one, because they spend a lot more time communicating online than offline, and this number keeps growing. So what do you think about it? What are the good sides of that, and what are the alarming and negative sides of that?
I would love to jump in off the bat for this one, just because just one thought for me. When we look at things from an anthropological perspective. I'm gonna take that again. When we look at things from an anthropological perspective, and that's really how I kind of entered this space, at least thinking about Web3, decentralization, all of these things, I think we really have to consider, perception is reality, and we have to perceive ourselves. If we look back in time for the extent of what we can see in recorded history, mankind has always tried to mirror themselves, right? We've tried to draw ourselves, we've tried to paint ourselves, we've tried to take photos of ourselves, we've tried to video ourselves, and see back, see that mirror into what we're putting out into the world. I really do believe personally that digital identity is the next phase of that, and if people have the choice to create whatever they want and create a version of themselves that can exist outside of the confines of reality, it's almost a no-brainer, especially for people who are coming into this space without knowledge of anything before. So while there is a dystopian viewpoint that can be brought up when considering that, as you said, 60% of youth are more connected to their virtual selves, I think there is a positive side of it, because I know there is the dark side, face filters, augmenting faces, and self-confidence is being boosted or taken away depending on how selves are augmented. But when we consider identity as something beyond our physical bodies, I feel like that's something that can be empowering for people. And when you look beyond the realm of the norm, right? If somebody's differently abled, or if somebody's, God forbid, gets into an accident and their life changes forever, I do believe that virtual spaces do provide a solution to a whole bunch of problems. And I always, just the one point I'll end my little spiel on is, anytime I'm considering, the digital versus physical conundrum, let's say, I always like to consider in virtual spaces and in the metaverse and in AR, augmented reality, whatever you want to push, what are these technologies adding to your life versus what are they detracting from your life? So if kids are able to see countries beyond their wildest dreams and experience and explore and build and start businesses in brand new worlds, that's fabulous. But I don't want to see these technologies, promoting things like eating disorders or anything like that. So I'm really trying to push the positive side of these technologies while they're still growing, my perspective.
I feel the same way, David, and you said that so beautifully. And you've done so many projects that are around inclusion and, fashion and such. It's funny you asked this, Layla, and I really appreciate this question, because before I came to Spatial, I think I spent like 3 weeks up at night thinking about the digital space, what impact, how can I be in this space responsibly? What do I stand for because of it? I was born before the internet. I'm dating myself a little bit. But, this technology did not exist for many years. And I've watched it evolve, as many of us have, who were born before cell phones and things like that. And so it does keep me up at night. And I always think about it. How can we build a space that's responsible and thinks about mental wellness and people's self-expression? What we found, though, and what I determined coming into Spatial was that we would lead a platform with really strong values, where it didn't matter about your economic status or, your income level, even, what this even looks like. All that mattered was the content of your character. And this is something that we preach constantly at Spatial, because you can't establish a healthy society or digital society without having strong values that bring us closer together. And so since we've done that, what I found is that self-expression, to David's point, is more powerful in this space. If you're going to use this technology, that it should reflect your best values and who you are. And what I find is joy in that, right? When we take the technology and stop focusing on the superficial and really tell people you need to focus on the integrity inside and then let everything else reflect on the outside in your avatar, we see digital fashion is even more important in this space right now. How people are self-identifying, how they feel their best selves. I have pink hair in the metaverse. I can't have that every single day, right? But I can, be the person that I feel like I am when I'm in a digital space. And I find that empowering. I've seen people within our own platform lift their voices, have the confidence to speak about their art and their projects. And part of that is stripping away the physical body and only speaking from your consciousness. And I find that an incredibly empowering tool. And I think that Web3 can start to build that confidence in humanity a little bit stronger and help us stop focusing a little bit here and listening to more what's in here. I think is really powerful when we move with values.
Yeah, I think a lot of things have been said, and you defined it in a really interesting way, and I quite agree with you. But yeah, I think having a virtual representation of yourself is quite important for younger people, but I think also for our generation, because you see, we also are spending a lot of times online through Zoom, especially since COVID, or FaceTime with our close ones, or Instagram, or social network in general. And the truth is, for me, the danger, the risk is the vision of the other and the peer pressure. Because when you have your virtual self represented, or you have yourself represented online through different platforms, you always try to look good, or to appearing to have a good life or anything, and that was a trick with Web 2. I think what I like about Web 3 is that, like you said, David, it's people. It's more easy to find your tribe. Also, you can have your tribe online. You can have your digital life. You can choose more easily the people you want to hang out on your digital life, because you will join both projects you liked, or you will go on a Discord of something you're really passionate about. And I think it's more interesting to explore your digital self in the Web3 ecosystem, because it's easier. I mean, it's not impossible in Web 2, and of course you can do it in Web 2, but it's easier to just not like being ruled by the algorithm what they want you to see, because you're these kind of people, and you would like to see like an influencer that is in a bikini and has like a body that nobody has in real life, and that will give you a peer pressure that you don't need, and that will not improve your life. But when you have a digital life that is happening around art, around entertainment, around project, around building, around learning and communicating, I think it's a richer way to have a positive virtual life. Obviously, both in Web 2 and Web 3, digital life is exposed to many risks, but like in real life, you're exposed to haters, you're exposed to people you will not know that might be not really well intended with you, but that's the same risk in the real life. And I think that when you're kids, your parents need to warn you about the risk and tell you how to use the tools, but you also need to discover by yourself through a community that seems good for you. And I think the real challenge here is to find your tribe. And it's so much more inclusive when you're around people that understand you and that will help you to glow at the person you want to be and to learn things you want to explore. So that's the positive thing I find about virtual life. It's you're not limited by your geographic area, about the neighborhood you grew up in. You're not limited by the people you see physically in your school or university or job, because these people might be nice, but maybe they have nothing in common with you. But online, you can find more easily the people you want to laugh with, to build with them, or it's easier to find people that might have more interest with you. And one thing I love about all these communities is so easy to learn. I mean, if I was a kid again, I would be like way more on my computer, because there is so many things to learn, and people are really helpful. When you have a question, there is always a community for people to guide you or to give you advice and everything. And I think it's a positive way to build yourself in the virtual world.
Absolutely. So I can also, on top of that, truly agree. And I would say that, that online identity is more important than the physical one is absolutely understandable. And I don't see it, as a trend, but I can see it as finally acknowledgement that we are indeed immersed more digitally than sometimes more than in physically. But that's totally okay, because this is where not only fun and games comes in into this all environment, because we do have business transformations happening due to pandemic, due to multiple reasons. We have more efficient systems like digital twins in manufacturing in multiple industries. We have transformations in multiple processes in businesses, and that's totally okay and understandable that more people tend to believe and to treat themselves the same as we would like to treat on a physical and in digital environment. And and finally we started to have this to find this purpose, to find ways to reach audiences, to stay relevant, to reveal our passions, and with all of that to gain not only economical advantages but also social, maybe political powers, and accordingly that will change the future we will live in. So as long as we don't forget that there's no physical planet B, and definitely as long as we take into consideration that inclusive and diverse environment is a must, and Web3 is also a place where we need to foster that. We can't forget that, because it will be the same as Web2 if we will just take it away. So and it will be a positive thing as to be aware of that. The digital has really become an essential part of our lives.
Yeah, I have one last comment, because I was so inspired by what Odeta had to say. I think anybody who's a gate opener on this panel feels the same way, that weight of responsibility, where we look at Web 2 and we're like, ooh, that could be really harmful, and we've seen the effects of that. But everybody who's working in this space, we're actually the opposite. We're like, we don't want you plugged in for 24 hours a day. We want you to experience the physical world. It's only when you're using technology, we want technology to be more meaningful and more impactful and provide more value to you, when you're using it every single day. So I don't think there's any gate opener who doesn't see Web 2 and find it fearful. And it's a watch out that we all keep in mind as we continue to develop these platforms and our programs and our different projects. I think that's one of the biggest watch outs, and I'm so glad that you brought it to the surface, Layla.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I have goosebumps nonstop just because I realize that there are so many things that we need to cover and talk more about it, because I feel like Web3 is such high-paced industry. We literally, most of us, I think, work 24/7 without days off, and sometimes we just like manage to do our daily tasks to stay afloat, and we don't give enough time to think about all these fundamental concepts of metaverse. So I'm happy that we have a moment today to discuss it, and I'm gonna put it on paper and share it just because I think this is the foundation of everything. And of course, as someone who works in fashion, I would like to zoom in on this topic of digital fashion. I hope all of you would enjoy it as well, because all of you are involved in digital fashion one way or another. And I would like to discuss this topic from a following angle. Fashion is the most beautiful industry, you know. It creates masterpieces, the most beautiful dresses, jewelry. It makes people look beautiful and inspires them. But at the same time, it's the dirtiest industry in the world. As a matter of fact, it's the second most polluting industry after oil. And it hurts the environment badly, and it exploits children's labor and a lot of other terrible things. So, as we stand in the beginning of this huge, beautiful transformative movement of digital fashion, what are the things that you like about it, and what are the trends that you consider alarming that we should observe and maybe change right now?
I'm happy to jump in again. I think that there's a lot that I really love, especially within the realm of virtual fashion, and it's something that I really gravitated towards. I own hundreds of pieces of virtual fashion because I really enjoy what it can do. I think that when we consider our identities, as Victoire mentioned before, you know, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, we're always considering our identity and how we want to be perceived in the world. And this shifts throughout our lives. You know, people people come out when they're 50 and, you know, share with the world that they are trans. And this can be a self-discovery moment for somebody at any point in their lives. And one thing that I find really empowering about virtual fashion, about the metaverse, is you're given an open playground to explore anything that you would like. If you would like to be, even in a limited world like Decentraland, where there are still genders, there's still an amazing array of virtual fashion, and I can take my avatar, go out into a space, have a beard and a dress and pigtails. And I have complete control over how I want to be perceived and how I want to display my character. And as Gia mentioned, you can have pink hair. My character has 2 sets of wings, you know, and I have several because I switch between them, and that's how I like to be perceived. I think that the metaverse as a concept and virtual fashion as a concept just really opens the doors to self-expression and allows for people to explore how they would like to be perceived in ways that they may have not even deemed possible before. And also, when you consider, I'm really appreciative that you brought up and contextualize this within the realm of the traditional fashion industry as well, Layla, because when you look at virtual fashion versus traditional fashion, it's really a night and day difference. I really love virtual fashion for many reasons. I mean, I spend a lot of time in metaverses. Let's say that first. But beyond that, I really do believe any ornamental outfit, any outfit that you are going to buy to wear once, Halloween costumes are a huge offender in the traditional fashion industry. From my perspective, there's no point for these garments to exist in materiality. Anything that is an ornamental garment that is not, you know, incredibly valuable, made out of gold. Okay, maybe a Hermes bag is an exception because it's a good investment. But, you know, generally speaking, most of these pieces that we're going to wear once really could be replaced in a very effective manner, maybe even in a better way, by virtual fashion. And once we get to a point where we can see each other through XR experiences, through things like Google Glasses or Apple Glasses, the game is going to be completely changed. So anytime we're talking about this, I really encourage people. Virtual fashion is incredibly affordable right now. Even if it may seem strange for you to spend $100 or $300 on a virtual garment, if that same piece was a physical garment, you might spend thousands of dollars on it. So I really like to consider things in the grand scheme. And if you buy virtual fashion now, you're buying a wardrobe for your life. You know, you say you buy a jacket that's gonna fit you forever, you buy a dress that's gonna fit you forever. Now it actually can. So anyway, I see virtual fashion as an opportunity and a way for us to move away from a lot of the wastefulness in the traditional fashion industry, and simultaneously allow us to express ourselves on a whole new level. So I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, David. You know, Spatial is part of the UN Sustainable Fashion Initiative. It's something we're very passionate about. And you know what I find in digital fashion, I agree. I'm a massive fan, not just from self-expression standpoint, but just also seeing how many opportunities. You know, Spatial is all about undiscovered. We believe there's so many talented artists in the world that we should surface them, you know, and find that artistry. And now there's this boom of amazing digital fashion designers who have the opportunity to thrive and create. You know, that is really exciting in this space. Personally, though, one thing that excites me, right? All the creation excites me. What doesn't excite me, though, is that this space has been led by gamers for a really long time. And, you know, one thing, when we started at Spatial, we didn't always have legs. Our avatars actually had half bodies and they'd float like little ghosts around the platform. But now we got Ready Player Me, which is this full body amazing avatar system. And when they first introduced the system to us, we were in love with it, but one of my biggest challenges was diversity. I was like, well, you know, I need hijabs in here. We need to have saris here so people can self-express themselves, their cultures, their religions, right? We have pushed them for non-binary avatars, and thank God Ready Player Me is such a great partner that they understand that there's a lack of diversity even in the avatar system. And so we have to keep pushing those boundaries to say, you know, not every woman wants to look like Lara Croft, you know, when they're an avatar. Some do. Some days I do. But some days I want to be a little more voluptuous or I want to be the way I express myself. And I am not satisfied seeing women be represented in this space in a single body type, only being represented one way. You know, I feel like we need to start challenging the norms on body types. And in fashion, also, I mean, in fashion, we're always looking at what we think is the best version in clothing, but diversity and inclusion is also important. And that's something we haven't seen really fleshed out, you know, in physical fashion. But I think digital expression really opens the door for inclusivity and making sure all people feel accepted and can self-express themselves in that space. So I challenge all digital, you know, designers to really bring their best creations, but also think, how can this impact the subconscious and people's confidence in a positive way as we create?
I totally agree with you, Gianna. And you probably have seen my baby making a cameo a few moments ago. She just woke up from a nap. But
We applaud mothers.
Yeah, your mother as well. But it's true because I was pregnant during COVID, during lockdown, and having my baby during this time, I was really into digital fashion and really into internet because there was nothing outside to do, obviously. And at that time where my body was like 8 months, 9 months pregnant, I couldn't wear one single thing, and I was just depressed because I wanted to look pretty, and I was not pretty around, according to the standard I had in my mind at that time. I was just playing with myself with digital fashion, and I remember it was the first auction of digital acts at the time. There was like this amazing dress, and I told myself, oh, I don't have to have the pregnant body in the virtual world. I can wear like skirt or dress I couldn't wear right now because my body can't fit anything. And that's one thing about inclusivity, about different body, I really like, because as every young mother, when your body changes, or like every woman or every individual, when you're like you're evolving with the age or anything, your body can change, and you don't have the same body all your life, but sometimes it's hard mentally to accept that you have changed. And that's fun because you don't have to think about how you look or how your body look, because it's your avatar and it's another part of yourself that is exploring this thing. But for me, what is really important about in the fashion industries is, because I was really into sustainable fashion before, and I'm still. It's what digital fashion actually can bring to improve the way the real fashion industry is working right now. So it can be different ways. It can be, as mentioned, the blockchain, Aura blockchain project I used to work for, that brings transparency into the supply chain. Obviously, it's not at a big scale because it's really complicated and it's only for few brands in some luxury companies. So there is still so much to do, but there is ways to improve the fashion industry with tech, and it's not necessarily through like aesthetic digital fashion. It can be, for example, speaking with fashion designers, digital fashion is also a way to do digital samples. When you're like launching a collection, you have a lot of samples of fabric, you have a lot of samples of different cuts you want, and all this process usually is lots of waste, and it generates a lot of waste. So even inside like a real fashion process, digital fashion can cut a part of this waste. So that's like different example of how digital fashion is having an impact on the real, like irreal fashion. Another thing, obviously, is like you said, David, it's all the like alum costume or everything that you only wear once. It's you buy something in plastic that you will never wear again, and it will end up in like in a charity shop where nobody will buy it, and it will be waste. It will have generated so many waste from the creation to the end where nobody wears it. In this case, obviously, for costumes and not even costume, but when you want to play, I mean, there is so many influencers or people who want to be influencers on the internet that are just buying cheap, bad designed clothes with really bad fabrics just for one picture, and they will return it and will never wear it again. The environmental cost of this is awful. I mean, I'm in Paris today and it's 41 degrees Celsius. It's never been that hot. We are in a climate crisis. That's real. We can't deny it no more. And we have to acknowledge that the fashion industry has a really big impact on this crisis, like lots of other industries. So obviously, we still need fabric, we still need proper clothes, because we are not yet in a world where everyone is walking naked, but no, we don't know. But that doesn't mean that digital fashion is replacing real fashion. Digital fashion is just a way to cut the unnecessary fashion and to improve the way the fashion is working today. So it's a complementary tool. And also, I went to the fashion graduate runway of Central St. Martin's in June. And it was really interesting because there was some like a student that prepared a digital fashion for the runway. So they had like the physical piece, but also the digital piece. And it really clicked on my mind because, okay, so now there is like new students from highly graduate fashion schools in London that are using digital fashion also in their runway. So it really like give me the goosebump, like you said, Layla, of what it's becoming real. And it's also maybe a new way of creating for the new designers today. And I think that it's amazing. We still have a lot to learn and a lot to build to make it like more efficient. But yeah, that's I spoke for too long, but I hope I was clear.
I loved your point about, and I just thought about it when you were speaking, is that fashion can benefit from using Web3 for prototypes. We see it, at Spatial all the time, like people are prototyping. So
Yes, yeah, of course. And Victoire, you said amazing points, and I really love that you touched this, real life impact on digital fashion, what kind of impact on real life digital fashion has. And this content creation topic, it's so big because, taking into account avatar economy, it's also extremely big. It's okay, I love it, and David has have some amazing flying wings, but when we talk about real life around, ultimately we will have to do something in order to strive here, to survive here. And this is where digital fashion also comes in. And Victoria, I really appreciate that you touched this point, because it really helps with content creation. And personally, I love to travel and etc. And I really like not to be in my sports wear, but I would like to have some dress and etc. And right now I can climb a mountain with sports wear but wear a dress without having any difficulties, because I can. Yeah, exactly. And this is where the fun comes in here. And also and this is the most precious thing about it. It doesn't cost almost any resource for the planet. It doesn't take anything. We all know, if you have been in digital fashion method, still we have to use electricity, water for designer, and etc. I mean, it's just take a look at the Dress6 report. It's also having some details around it. But but there are so many positive things, and also before we jump to that, but negative things still. If you talk about pros and cons, but negative side is still the process, how to get dressed, because right now it's a bit annoying. We are taking this photo, we are sending somewhere, someone is putting on us digital fashion item, which can be only worn once, and even if we are looking into filters, we are trying some filters, and filters they are not fully capable to efficiently recognize our body gestures. So, and I'm saying yet, it's just a matter of months, hope not years. but buying only once, and it's also a topic. And if I don't like a photo, I need to take another one, and to take a good one. And for example, I really like to put my hair on my face, and I can't, because I need to do like this in order to wear as effectively as possible digital fashion. But it's just a matter of time, as I mentioned before, to make it into to make it into another level. So this is why we have so many talented people working in this field to make this finally come true. And positive sides, to finalize this question, I can just summarize that sustainability aspect is definitely changing the way our buying habits are placed in our lives. Self-expression, opportunity to earn from designing any kind of digital material, fabric, or outfit itself. Utility in multiple virtual environments, to like dressing up not only our social media, so our digital copies in social media, but also avatars, and our digital identity creation. So this 5 cents from
I just wanted to add one little note to what Odeta just said, because that was beautiful. I completely agree. If you have a moment, go look through the Dress6 sustainability reports, because it is quite thorough. But I will mention just one statistic that I know off the top of my head. This is from Palm, but I believe this speaks to almost any proof-of-stake blockchain. Buying a piece of virtual fashion, or one transaction on most proof-of-stake blockchains, is the equivalent energy expenditure of sending 3 emails. So for anybody who's arguing that it's unsustainable, how many emails do you send today? So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, thank you, David. And also, we need to realize that the fashion industry and the digital fashion industry are not at the same scale. I mean, how many people are aware of digital fashion? How many people among those people are aware? How many people are actually owning or buying digital fashion compared to actually all the rest of the world that has fashion, fast fashion, ultra fast fashion, and every kind of fashion all over the world. So it's not even at the same scale. You can't compare things that are not at the same level. And even if, I don't know, there was an explosion of digital fashion, and like tomorrow everyone had like a digital fashion wardrobe, the reality of this, with the merge coming into Ethereum, in Ethereum, it will actually divide the pollution generated. So there is solution in the future. The technology is evolving. We can't compare things with a situation that is not even existing at the moment.
Yeah, but it's what I do like to think about is I feel like Web3 is an opportunity for the fashion industry when I think about how you prototype your looks, right? Like, think about your next collection, right? It can come out digitally first, test that with the audience. There's a lot of different, so much data that a fashion designer can receive from prototyping things in the metaverse, or in Web3. And I'd like to see it be a little more harmonious with the traditional fashion designers and use this technology more effectively to understand and not create so much waste. So I think it would be fascinating to see traditional designers meet us in Web3 and start to refine some of these processes on how we create fashion, how we test fashion, how we're looking at different looks, what works for different audiences. I think there's a real opportunity for traditional fashion to meet us, here in this place.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I have to tell also on that on top a digital fashion industry, and there's no competition. Everyone is so collaborative. Definitely not the same thing that is happening in physical fashion industry, and this is what I really love. And then funding what is coming to digital fashion right now, Drop by Danny Loftus was funded, then the Fabricant with so many millions funded, Tribute brand funded, so many amazing brands in digital fashion being funded, and right now all of them are working together, all of them they are collaborating to make this industry available for everyone and accessible for everyone and interesting for everyone. So this is what I really like, exactly what you mentioned, that physical industry is a bit different and so collaborative in digital fashion.
I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. We at Artisan, I guess, are living proof of every statement that you made. And I feel like digital fashion is an extension of traditional fashion. And the same way as Victoire mentioned, we cannot deny anymore that, global warming is a real thing. Traditional fashion cannot deny that digital fashion is the next step of evolution of fashion, and they should evolve. And right now, I think we have amazing platforms. Artisan is one of them that build the tools and platforms to help them. And by the way, just a moment of promotion, House of Muse is hosting an amazing, beautiful digital fashion gallery in Spatial in the meeting place. Yes, thank you so much for helping to make it happen. So all of you are invited to see it. We have an amazing DJ playing cool music. We have a lot of beautiful designs, 3D models, Ready Player Me avatars there showing and modeling the clothes. So please come over and check it out. And I want to wrap up the most amazing and the most relevant conversation with my last question. If we look back at art and literature, we will see that for some reason in all times, the most important information was concealed. And I think it was concealed because it needed to be protected, right? We all read the books about Templars and other, great societies. And maybe that's why symbolism exists, because we couldn't just say things. We needed to put them in the symbols. And maybe for that reason, in the most, popular books about alternative worlds, omniverses, metaverses, like The Foundation or Ready Player One, characters like Harry Sandel and James Holiday had to conceal the most important information because for some reason big politicians and big corporations could steal it and destroy it. So as we stand at the beginning of Metaverse and we are the early adopters of this innovative technology, how should we behave with the standards and values of the Metaverse and Web3 society? And is there anything we can do today to make sure that our values and our beliefs live a long life and are being passed on in this original form to the future generations?
I think decentralization is part of the answer. And one thing amazing with blockchain and Web3 is building decentralized protocols, decentralized platforms, decentralized governance and communities. And that's It's not easy. Not everything can be decentralized, but it can be a way to, through like healthy governance, being sure that some values or that there will not be someone that will have more power than everyone and will decide that it's this way now. So I think it's a good way for communities to keep the power and to keep healthy balance in building. Obviously, we could have like another chat about what is decentralization and how can we achieve decentralization in digital fashion. And that's a big challenge because behind everything you have money, you have funds, you have social power. So obviously when you're part of a DAO, how your voice is heard, and how can you be part of DAO that matters for you and everything. But I think the way Web3 is actually built and how it's improving and evolving, it's rely on this like healthy governance system or decentralization system where everyone can have a voice and it can be kind of democratic. It's not perfect yet. I don't know if it will be perfect one day, but I think it's the solution that is the most obvious for me at the moment.
Yeah, I can actually add up on that, right now, you touched also a good point during that, right now we still do not have the full decentralization, in neither metaverse, neither, physical space. We still belong to multiple centralized platforms. We still don't fully own our data. We are struggling, to rely on certain Web3 security related topics. We still don't have, interoperable environments, but we will, because I have no doubt, that hearing this, that you heard this already before, but Web3, as you also Leila mentioned, it's so early, because it's still building, it's still figuring out, and the only one certainty is today is uncertainty, as someone anonymous somewhere said, and also that our older generations did not have a privilege to to connect to internet and just know all the answers just straight right away, and as our younger audiences do right now. And this is why I really believe, and this is what I'm seeing, that they are so tech savvy and so curious about not only themselves but about the future of their surroundings, the future of our planet, future of our generations. This is why, as lame as it might sound, but my perspective, is that education is the key. So I would say, don't hesitate, create and educate. Educate yourself, educate your family, educate your audience, educate your industry, wherever the industry you might be, because it's not only fashion industry. There is so many other industries, and education is one of the key, our priorities to successfully, make this heritage what we are making today.
No, really beautiful points. I think that for me, decentralization, I completely agree. Victoire, I believe decentralization is the crux. That's how it all really started for me, this concept, this notion, this ideal. But I do also completely agree with you, Odeta. Where we live today is what I call like a CDFI world. It's a centralized, decentralized finance world. There's no pure example of one or the other yet, unless you're looking at, purely like blockchain transactions. If you look at any real marketplace, metaverse, organization, there are both elements still existing today. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that's a sign of the times and a sign of progression. But I do think as an ethos, that's really where it started for me in terms of where I guess I took the crypto pill and fully jumped off when I wrote my thesis, which was based around decentralization as an anthropological device. And I really tried to branch that into parts of our lives beyond just blockchain, from remote working to co-working networking, to, you know, even notions of decentralized audiences and the idea of social media and how all of this works. I do believe that a lot of these notions have already permeated society, and that we are, the reason that so many of us do gravitate towards this space and do kind of like, once we have our aha moment, it really is just a flood of understanding, is because it really isn't so different from the way that we already live. We already do live in quite, as we always say, the world is getting smaller, you know, the world is getting more and more decentralized in terms of we can be wherever we want to do whatever we want. Many of us work with teams internationally even before we worked in this blockchain space. So I believe that this will continue pushing forwards. I believe that the technologies that we're all pushing to develop, especially things like XR and VR, are going to make the world even smaller and allow for decentralization to you know, happen on an even grander scale. And yeah, I mean, from an ethos perspective, I think that's what the space, I completely agree with everything that's been said thus far. I think that's what the space really preaches. And it's not religious, but it's extremely, it's almost spiritual, because I do believe that everybody in this space does have at least, well, we like to think that everybody in this space has a mutual understanding. Of course, you know, it goes without saying, you know, we do still have a large crypto bro population that may be a little bit separate from what some of us might be thinking, but I do also see a lot of people in that camp, you know, let's say moving over to the good side. The dark side is moving over to the Jedi slowly but surely, but it's to use their reference as well. There you go. That's very palatable, I think. But yeah, I think that, you know, the shift is happening, and as we always say, we're super early. Let's look at things 3 to 5 years later, and I do really think that all of these notions will permeate society a lot more, because we're still like at that pre-1% critical mass on chain. That's my spiel.
I love that, David. You know, David says something that really spoke to me, which is know your ethos. And to get to Layla's question about how do you preserve values, right? How do you spread information? It's a heavy weight when you step up and say, I'm going to be a leader in this space, right? Because it's not mass market yet. People don't understand it yet. And I think that being a leader in Web3 also comes with a sense of like humbleness is something that I feel all the time of, you know, some moments I have a moment of being like, oh gosh, I have a great responsibility to humanity right now, right? You know, even now we have 500,000 artists that every single day I have to think about, you know, on what's going to serve them best, what's going to help their lives, what's going to enrich them. And so when we talk about values, I think coming into Web3, or the Jedi side, like David said, also comes with quite a bit of an existential journey. What do I stand for? What is my ethos? What am I sharing, and what value can I bring to my community? What am I bringing into this space? And when I say humbleness is really important, because this is where collaboration comes in, and the humbleness to say, I don't have all the answers right now. So I'm going to need some more thinkers, and I'm going to need more advisors. And I need, and this is what every platform or people in this space need to think about. Take your time. We only have one chance to do this right and impactfully. Every time you add a new feature, you move that dial somewhere, the humans will follow it. And different social behaviors will follow that. Different ways you're impacting humanity will follow that. So I really preach thoughtfulness in this space. It's not a rush. You know, we're in that capitalistic mindset of, I need to make all this money right now. But are you building a strong foundation? I ask that question often in this space. Are you building a strong foundation? What is your ethos? What sort of values are you implementing into your projects? What do you stand for? Because if you're rushing to the finish line, you're going to get a rush job. And so I really preach taking your time, being thoughtful in not only what you're building, in what your project stands for, what your messaging is, how your roadmap is, be strategic, have a plan. This is how we preserve our values. But first you have to look at yourself as a leader and determine, you know, how you plan to lead in this space and how you plan to educate people and share those values with others, you know. And I really believe in what Odeta said. We're in a long journey of education. And I think part of the reason this space hasn't moved forward very quickly is it's been gated by money at every step of the way. And when we strip away those gatekeepers in Web3, I think we're going to start to see that mass markets start to adopt these technologies. You know, if you had to pay $50,000 to use Google, would you be using Google? No. So we have to be in this space to be educators, to be thoughtful, and to, you know, really try to build this space in a meaningful way, where we take our time and find other advisors and collaborators so we can share in this abundance, you know, that we're all part of as a community.
One last thing I just want to add to your point, Gia, just because I thought that was so beautifully said. When we look at, because you know, as we say in like financial journalism, like follow the money, right? When we look at how this space has grown, you're totally correct. Like a lot of this has come from traditional gatekeepers, VCs, you know, major funds, angel investors. But as we also see the space continue to grow, we also see the money continue to get dispersed. And as people, you know, are successful in, you know, tokens being, you know, getting pumped, and as we see NFT artists become extremely successful and sell a ton of work, we see funds get redistributed, and that allows for more projects to get funded. So I think that's really the exciting thing. As the space continues to grow and more people see success in the space, those are the same people who will continue to pay it forward and see the space change. And that's why I do really think that action, like that process, I really think is what we're seeing as like gatekeepers creating gate openers. And I think, you know, Victoire, many people on this panel are examples of that. So I think it's really exciting.
Indeed, it is very exciting, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. As I said earlier, I wish we had a 10-hour session, but we only got 1 hour to discuss this crucial topic, and I hope we all found some kind of inspiration, and we will continue educating people in this space and promoting some wholesome, healthy ideas on what ethos is and how we can make it an integral part of Web3. Also, the last thought that I wanted to share with you is that House of Muse, it's the name of the conference, derived from ancient Greece, from this beautiful poetess named Sappho, who created a school for muses on the island of Lesbos, where all women could come, educate themselves, and create. And as we can see throughout thousands of years, the idea of creativity, beautiful poetry, and art lived through. Bad guys are not remembered, only beautiful art and beautiful ideas. That's why I hope same will happen with Web3. Beautiful seeds of education, knowledge, and art that we plant today will grow and will flourish, and that's what our future generation will remember, and that's what they will pick up and go on with. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas today.
Thank you, Layla. This is a beautiful conference. Thank you for being a champion for voices in Web3 and being an amazing host today, right? Like, give it up for Layla. So great.
Thank you.